wanted to start by introducing myself to all of you. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist, and I've been caring for clients for maybe well over 2 decades. I have a practice here in Evanston, and my family and I have been part of the JRC community for over 16 years. Last week, I was so honored, I think, to be invited to as a mental health consultant to your meeting. I had no idea, and I was so excited to learn that this team thought that it was really important for you all to learn about the social and emotional toll of this pandemic on everyone, and to talk about the ways that the leadership could also support mental health needs of the JRC community. I was so very appreciative to learn that you meet on a daily basis, like except for Shabbat. That's incredible. I had no idea that the dedication and the depth of the ways that you are looking to serve the community, to the congregation as a whole, to individual people, and that you are really trying to understand, the insides out of this pandemic, and even having Dr. Kim kind of on your calls to understand sort of that expert frontline insight into this ever-changing COVID landscape. So what I'd like to do today, if it's okay with all of you, is to really get to know some more specifics about your individual roles on this team. And I don't know, Elliot, is it okay if we start with you?
Absolutely. As JRC's board president. And really the way this group came to be is at the first or second week of March, there's a lot of nervous buzz. And then at the end of the week ending on March 13th, I was, we were all struggling to figure out how to respond to changing conditions. And the first issue was a coordination issue because we didn't have a regular time to talk to one another, and there was a lot of chasing. And then we took our lead based on what the local school districts were doing, but realized that we needed to be able to respond more quickly, and we'd have different considerations. And the word was coming out that in lots of organizations, the best practice is, a crisis management team.
I am the immediate past president, and I guess my role on this call, well, first of all, it's just good to have more than one lay leader. Also, when you're present, you're kind of in the spotlight. So it's nice to have somebody who's been there, but also has the perspective of having been there, but isn't in the spotlight. So can kind of listen with similar ears and also support the president. And really, I feel hopefully that support everybody on this call.
I'm Shelley Pat. I'm the early childhood director. And so just during this time, what I'm trying to do is support the teachers and the early childhood families in still maintaining relationships and connections. The teachers are doing some curriculum and meetings with children and parents online. And so I'm just sort of working behind the scenes to try and support all of that so that our early childhood families still have a connection during this time while the building is closed and the kids can't be at school.
Rabbi David, Assistant Rabbi for Education. So my role on these calls is thinking about how what's happening is relating to our youth and family programming, and how can we continue to help families and all of our youth from early childhood through high school to, as Shelley put it, stay connected, continue to bring meaningful Jewish content into folks' lives and touch points. And yeah, grateful to be on the call with all of you.
So my only qualification for being on this call is that I am both a member of JRC and a physician. I practice primary care in Evanston. I don't have any particular public health, extra expertise or infectious disease. I practice primary care. I think what I hope I can bring to the call is, there's a lot of information coming out in the media about COVID, and I think what I bring is not necessarily more information, but maybe I highlight things that I think are particularly important of the news of the day. Maybe I help to frame things we're reading, give how as a doctor I see, what's happening, and I guess answer questions to the best of my ability.
As the executive director, my role is really trying to make sure that all the groundwork is laid for us to continue to move forward and support our members and our online programming and oversee the communications and the logistics. And I'm still providing oversight of our building, even though it's not being used a lot right now. And I want to say also, I truly appreciate having Dr. Kim's expertise when we have questions about safety for our staff and for our members. It's been really a huge help for us.
I'm Howard Friedland. I'm the cantor of the congregation, and I'm online several times during the week. We have services for school, for circle time for the kids. I guess primarily in these calls, my main job is to fill everyone else in on the condition of maybe some people we have in the hospital, what's going on pastorally in the congregation, along with Rabbi Weiss, Rabbi Eber, and really also to talk about things in this call that have been victories for us during this time, and to talk about things, frankly, that worry us and we're confused about. So to me, that's the significance.
Everyone. So, as JRC's lead rabbi, I see myself and my role both in this task force, but also for the congregation in this time as being very, very zoomed in and very, very zoomed out at the same time. I guess the Zoom puns will roll. But the way that we are working on a micro level to really try and bring in some of the things that we're seeing with our individual congregants and families in terms of ritual and life cycle and pastoral issues that are coming up, working with how we are adapting individual b'nai mitzvah or funerals or shiva or experiences that the congregation is used to having in ways we've always done it, and thinking about how we can reframe on an individual basis or on a small week-to-week basis to make sure that we're still able to be holding our members. And from a zoomed out perspective, to look holistically and I think emotionally and theologically and communally at how it is that we are able to take this time of huge uncertainty and give it some context and some Jewish context, and take this time of extreme anxiety and think about the unknown, and also look around to larger best practices. In this time of changing landscape and where everything doesn't feel normal, how is it that we can still figure out what the essence is of what it is that we need to do for JRC, what can wait, and how do we hold ourselves together as we are reconstructing our congregation and our synagogue and what it means to be Jewish and what we need right now, both on a day-to-day level in small things and also on a larger level as we vision what it means to go forth.
Exactly. And so I actually, to pick up on some of the things that you just said, I'm wondering, if people feel comfortable sharing a little bit about sort of that dealing with the uncertainty and the magnitude of the weights that you're carrying, both, individually and in your roles on this task force. If you would feel comfortable. Yeah,
I'm happy to start.
Absolutely.
The gift that we added to our household, particularly for our kids, but our adults too, was a subscription to Disney Plus, which means that Frozen 2 is pretty much on constant loop in my house. And if you have not seen Frozen 2, the primary song that Elsa, the protagonist, sings is called Into the Unknown. And it's like, how do I go forth? And I don't know where I'm going, and something's calling me, and everything feels different, and I feel so unsettled, and I'm going into the unknown. So other than the ballad coming from Idina Menzel and my 6-year-old's voices together a lot, I think part of what part of what I am experiencing right now is the experience of helping to hold this congregation in partnership with everybody that's on this call. We're all vital parts, while at the same time really feeling like we are, standing on Jell-O. We're standing in the middle of the wilderness and we don't know what's going to happen next. And as a planner, personally, I really like to sketch out what's going to happen and how we're going to do things and make lists and keep my calendar up to date. And when I can't do that, that feels really stressful. Or having to think about how are we going to reinvent what we are doing. And personally, my own capacity. I'm used to spending lots of long hours and long days and times at JRC and with all of you. And now I'm at the same time trying to do that and being a full-time homeschooling parent to a 1st and 6th grader, and also be a partner and also be in my home and experience work-life balance and start to think about what will it mean to have perhaps our biggest event of the year in a really different way. I'm grateful that Rabbi David and Cantor Howard can take really parts of, the three of us really share the spiritual and emotional leadership of the congregation, and really grateful for Sharon and the staff who are holding all of the administrative and functional pieces, for our educators, for Shelley and David in their roles in thinking about what families need, and for our lay leaders, for Elliot and Sandy and Kim and Jordana, to be able to think about, we are all holding on to each other, and we all have to share this work. And how do we take the work that is so heavy right now and feels so, both the work is serious and the work is weighty, but it's also competing with the work that everybody else is full of. Our lives are really, really full and complicated right now, and there's not an easy solution. So I say my commitment is to go into the unknown with everybody and try and figure out how we're going to find our footing, and recognize that I think everybody needs a little extra slack and everybody needs a little extra help.
I think it's really nice that you're both naming what it is, this unknown, this uncertainty. I love the image of standing in Jell-O.
Yeah.
I think that really captures it. It's excellent that you have a theme song to go with this feeling. And then you're also at the same time providing an important function, and that's also normalizing. Sure, Elliot.
So I think what Rabbi Rachel outlined is really affecting everyone, but in different ways. I mean, we all have a huge amount of uncertainty, and we all have a lot of anxiety, and whether it's from having a lot of people in the house doing a lot of different things, and the internet not being able to hold up e-learning and Zoom meetings. So I at least find myself crossing over into areas where I don't have a lot of experience, and it's largely about anxiety, and I have to check myself.
And something that we know about anxiety is it's highly contagious, right? It's one of the most contagious emotions that we have. I think that's part of the herd mentality.
One of the biggest challenges, I think, is, especially as leaders, all of us, is maintaining the calm and projecting confidence and comfort when you feel anxious yourself. And that's a big challenge. It's a big challenge pastorally, I think.
I really echo a lot of what everyone else has said on both the personal challenges that every one of us is facing, and especially around work-life balance, now that the home is the place of both of those things. And just another element that I'm thinking of that relates to my work is and really the community's work is about being a place where people can connect in a meaningful way. JRC is a community that loves being together, and we pride that that's what we love. And so there's a lot of uncertainty and challenge in how do we recreate, or not recreate, but create something new online that's going to feel like it has that same, or still that same value. And so there's the pressure of trying to do that, but also the motivation to really want to do that for folks in the community, to still have meaningful connection.
Yeah. Sharon.
I want to echo that, is that we like to be together in community, and it's hard to not be with people. I get to see all of you every day, and I love that. It's a great connection. And I love our staff meetings, our weekly staff meetings, when we can all come together on Zoom and talk through what needs to happen and how we can support each other, and looking to the future and how can we plan and all of those things. But I miss being together. I miss being able to just walk into someone's office and ask a quick question. It's all so much more complicated now. And since I'm retiring soon, it's sad to me that I won't be able to be with people, be with the people who are like my work family, right?
We're so sad as well because JRC's instinct is to celebrate things with like a big dance party. But whether or not you would feel comfortable with that, we would like that. We would find something else, and it's just heartbreaking that you're retiring and we don't know if we'll be able to gather and celebrate a full decade of partnership. It's really hard. So I think we're all somewhat heartbroken about that.
One of the things that I've been struggling with is, as a board member, it's really uncomfortable and painful to sit in a meeting and talk about what we might have to cut to keep our budget balanced. All of the pieces of JRC are so precious. So to even discuss something that I don't directly engage with is still very painful. We put on these fiscal hats and ask, what can we do without? And I think the last board meeting was tense because those are the feelings that we're all experiencing, and yet it is our responsibility. And that's why I think today is so important, because we as board members really struggle with this stuff. It's not easy. It's not simple. So I'm really happy to have this opportunity to share this. And hopefully we won't have to do any of that. But if it does happen, I want people to know it's because all other options are exhausted. Not because we're cavalier. We really struggle with this stuff. We really take it to heart. But since we don't know the future, and we're going to plan as if, something hopeful and more positive than perhaps what we're feeling right now. And we'll see what happens.
Right.
Sandy, your comment reminds me of an a cappella song that I learned at a rabbinic retreat about 6 months ago. And the chorus of the song says, I'm going to put one foot in front of the other and lead with love. And I feel like that's actually what we're doing right now. And the verse of that is, I know you're scared. Well, I'm scared too, but here I am right next to you, right? Like this idea of leading with love. And I think that is something that JRC has in spades. Right? Yeah. Whatever happens financially, whatever happens in terms of capacity or technology or ability, we have so much love. And that is one thing that I think is evident on these calls every day.
Yeah.
And mindfulness. You're doing this very mindfully and lovingly and with kindness and compassion. These are not easy conversations to even be having, but you're having them. It's brave. You're all showing up. I think Shelley, did you want to add something?
I did before, but I think Rabbi Rachel summed it up really well. And I think this is just one of the things Rabbi Rachel said earlier in this call about how we're in the wilderness. And that's how I think we all feel, whether it's lay leaders or staff, we're just navigating something that we haven't done before, we don't know how to do, and no one else knows how to do this either.
There's always talk about living in the present, and that's a positive thing, right? People want to live in the moment. And we are literally having to live in the moment during this time because we cannot predict. And what you said was very poignant, Shelley, because not only can we not predict, because there's no end date. I think that's the most frustrating thing of all. Hopefully sooner than later when we can all come back, but to deal with what we have now as tools.
Because I'm really thinking so much about our members and will they be able to renew? Will they be able to be part of the community for financial or other reasons? And then they'll be less connected, right? Then there'll be a drift as we come through this, or, someone who's lost their job or is on furlough, all of that uncertainty. And so I feel like I'm so focused on how to keep our community strong so that people can come back, stay with us, all of those things, because I feel like JRC has been so just invaluable during this time. I can't imagine going through this without this community,
I think maybe there's something to that, for a lot of us in our various roles now, just like Howard, when I see you playing the guitar on Facebook, I'm like, oh my God, Howard is still there playing his guitar and being witty. Thank you. Just be there, And I think that we maybe underestimate that part of our sort of caretaking role is just that people know, like everyone here, like you're there, people are waiting to see you, but you're out there and you're thinking about stuff. And I think that that's really steadying for a lot of people.
In many ways, this moment was made for Reconstructionist Judaism. And honestly, it sounds funny to say it, but we have been preparing for this theologically, psychologically, ritually, since we joined a Reconstructionist congregation, because we are all about saying, how do we prepare to adapt and respond and engage with the circumstances that are around us and affect our lives so that Judaism stays alive and meaningful and comes with us, rather than becomes the thing that says, oh, it looks like this, so we can't do it anymore. And so part of what we're seeing, I think, is a huge burst of creativity and generativity and adaptation, and that feels really fresh. And as we redesign what will happen next, I think the worst thing we could do would be to return to how it used to be. Normal is different now. And so part of what I think this moment is teaching us is empathy. And it's teaching us how we could be creative and move past the places that we've been stuck in before. Mordecai Kaplan used to call it putting old wine in new wine bottles, right? Which is to say, how do you preserve the essence? And we're asking what's essential, and how do you change the shape? Don't look at the container, look at what's in it. And so we're keeping the what's in it. And it's so meaningful to know that our members trust us and trust each other and know that we're there, and to see those connections blossoming and fostering. And I really hope that our members who haven't yet found their footing or their place to connect will take this as a call to say, oh, maybe I could reach out.
I want to take a moment to thank each and every one of you for your commitment, your love, your generosity, your creativity, your innovation. Rabbi Rachel, you said it beautifully. This was meant, the Reconstructionist, this was our calling, right? This is fantastic. And I really am so appreciative. And thank you for today.
Sure, Dana, thank you for guiding us through this conversation. I think it's valuable to us. We know it's valuable to us, and we think it may be valuable to share.
Absolutely. Hearts and minds and spirits and communities. We've got it all on this screen right now. It's a beautiful 9 faces to be able to see and what we all represent. It's really great.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank all.
You.